Johnny Crawford, the beloved star of The Rifleman, won hearts as young Mark McCain, but his life was far from the Hollywood dream. From an empty house and a quiet love story to a heartbreaking final battle with illness, Johnny's real life was full of surprises and sadness. What really happened in his last years? How much of his fame was left behind? How did the golden boy of the 1950s end up fighting one last silent war? Stay tuned as we reveal his rise, fall, and legacy. Famous actor Johnny Crawford, who played young Mark McCain on The Rifleman and one of the original Mouseketeers on the Mickey Mouse Club. If you watched TV in the 1960s or even the 1980s, you probably remember Johnny Crawford. He wasn't just a familiar face, he was a full-blown star. Johnny had a way of lighting up the screen. He fit his roles so naturally that fans often forgot where Johnny ended and his characters began. And that's not just nostalgia talking. At only 13, he won an Emmy nomination, which says a lot about his talent. He had charisma, drive, and smart people helping him with his career who wouldn't let him stay in one show. Johnny explored every corner of show business he could. His music career took off too. His records flew off the shelves and fans couldn't get enough. But what most people don't know is that despite his fame, he wasn't always paid for acting. Johnny always surprised people, but in 2021, he left us with a surprise that no one saw coming. Fans asked, how could someone so loved and talented end up with so many regrets? Johnny Crawford was born on March 26, 1946, in Los Angeles to Betty and Robert Lawrence Crawford Sr. His roots were pretty interesting. His maternal grandparents were from Belgium, and his grandfather Alfred Eugene Marin was a famous violinist. Johnny grew up in a loving family with 3 siblings, Cordan, Robert, and Nance. It's clear that he didn't come from a typical family. You could say that show business was in their blood, but Johnny didn't just get lucky, he worked hard for his success. In 1959, he and his older brother Robert and Johnny got parts in the TV show Laram, and their dad, Robert Sr., worked behind the scenes. It was a once-in-a-lifetime event when all 3 Crawfords were nominated for Emmys in the same year, Johnny and Robert for acting and their dad for film editing. That kind of family success doesn't happen every day. Johnny's career really started to take off. Johnny tried out for the Mickey Mouse Club when he was 9 years old, and the producers knew right away that he was a natural. Johnny didn't think twice when ABC offered him a part, and he jumped right in and started filming with them. But here's a twist you probably didn't see coming. ABC never paid Johnny for his work. That's right, they didn't pay him at all. But before you get mad, Johnny and his parents told his agent not to worry about payment, because most people would think that was unfair, especially for a kid. But Johnny's family didn't see it that way. They weren't focused on the money, they were focused on something they thought was even more valuable: exposure. They thought that Johnny's early fame could open doors and put him in a spotlight that few people ever get to experience. That one decision turned out to be a winner. Johnny became one of the 24 original Mouseketeers on the Mickey Mouse Club. When the Mickey Mouse Club first started airing in 1955, Johnny was on the red team and appeared in a lot of fun segments. Even his brother Bobby joined in and became a TV star by the end of the first season. Johnny decided it was time to move on. He'd learned what he needed to and was ready for the next step, so he quit ABC. It wasn't long before he got his first movie role in The Sons of Katie Elder, where he shared the screen with John Wayne. Something just as valuable as the gig itself: confidence. After that, things really took off for him. He went on to star in a number of big projects, including The Little Boy Lost, which was his big break. It aired as part of Lux Video Theater on March 15, 1956, and helped him become known as a serious young actor. That same year, he was in a rare color episode of the classic Western The Lone Ranger, which was a big deal at the time. For the next 2.5 years, Johnny did a lot of different roles. He got nearly 60 roles. Johnny had roles in 3 episodes of NBC's The Loretta Young Show and as Manuel in I Am an American from the crime drama The Sheriff of Cooch. He also closed out the first season of The Restless Gun in 1958, and later that year played Bobby Adams in the drama Courage of Black Beauty, which only added to his growing fame. By the late 1950s, Johnny had serious roles in almost every major show or movie of the time. In 1958, He played Tommy Peel in an episode of Tales of Wells Fargo. Americans were becoming more and more familiar with Johnny's face, thanks to the role of Mark McCain in The Rifleman. When a young actor gets that much attention, it's natural to worry that they might lose their way. Fame can be overwhelming, especially for kids. It's like a double-edged sword. It opens doors, but can mess with your head too. Was that the case for Johnny? Not right away. In fact, the spotlight only got brighter when he got the role that would become the biggest of his career. This time he wasn't just a supporting actor, he played the son of war veteran Lucas McCain, who was played by the legendary Chuck Connors. What made The Rifleman stand out was that Chuck's character was one of the first single fathers ever portrayed on American TV. That father-son relationship didn't feel fake, it was real. The show was a huge hit and ran from 1958 to 1963. Johnny was in all 168 episodes, and his role as Mark made him a household name. A lot of people say that Chuck Connors put Johnny Crawford in the spotlight, and to be fair, The Rifleman did make Johnny famous in a big way. But stay tuned, because you might be surprised to learn that Johnny actually saved Chuck Connors' career and helped The Rifleman become the long-lasting success it was. As his career took off, he got a part on The Big Valley, which ran from 1965 to 1969, and starred the legendary Barbara Stanwyck as the widow of a 19th century rancher. Johnny held his own in that Western world, which was no easy feat. He also turned heads in roles for The Count of Monte Cristo and Cavalcade of America, showing that his talent went beyond Westerns. By this point, Johnny had become a bit of a lucky charm in Hollywood. If you cast him, success usually came your way. Producers knew he brought star power. He started making cameos on TV shows like Rawhide D and Hawaii 5, and he became a regular on talk shows like The Mike Douglas Show and The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. At that point, Johnny wasn't just an actor, he was a full-on teen idol. Kids wanted to be him, adults admired him, and his life seemed like a dream come true. Now this is where things get really interesting, because this is when Johnny Crawford saved Chuck Connors. It all started with Levy Gardner Lavin. Productions officially took back the rights to The Rifleman from MPI in late 2013. This meant that all 168 episodes could be watched in the right order for the first time. The show was a huge hit in its early seasons, but things took a turn for the worse when Lucas McCain, played by Connors, started dating Miss Millie in Season 3. Fans weren't happy with this plot, and Millie left the show in Season 4. Behind the scenes, Connors was also angry, mostly because he felt he wasn't getting paid enough. Thought about quitting the show and were looking at James Whitmore and John Anderson as possible replacements. But then something changed. The producers realized that Connors' connection with Johnny, their on-screen chemistry, was irreplaceable. It wasn't just about who could play Lucas McCain, it was about who could do it with Johnny. So they raised Connors' salary, and he stayed on. That decision didn't just keep him on the show going, and made Connors the iconic rifleman we still remember today. If it weren't for Johnny, Chuck Connors might have been forgotten about in TV history. Crawford and Connors had a great working relationship on set, but things got complicated when they weren't together. Johnny didn't like Chuck Connors off-screen. He thought he was annoying, and even called him a bad influence who never really took the role seriously. People still talk about Johnny's amazing career decades later, but what if he couldn't remember any of it? What if all that fame and those iconic roles slowly slipped away from him? We'll get to that in a minute. For now, let's clear up a common misconception. Some people thought it was strange when Johnny turned to music later in life, but it made perfect sense if you knew anything about his background. Johnny grew up listening to music because his mother played it for him. Johnny's grandfather, Alfred Eugene Mirren, was a famous violinist in Germany and Belgium, before moving to the US in 1914. For Johnny, music wasn't a side trip, it was a part of who he was. Alfred wasn't just a talented musician, he was also a devoted husband. He taught his wife Frances how to play the violin, which led her to become a violin teacher herself. Alfred's talent took him far. He was one of the first violinists to play with major orchestras like the prestigious New York Philharmonic. His daughter also inherited that musical talent, but she preferred playing the piano. Then there was Johnny's grandfather, Bobby Crawford, who was another giant in the music world. He co-founded the Crawford Music Corporation with the legendary Irving Berlin. Bobby made waves in the business by producing hit Broadway musicals and plays. In 1929, he sold his music catalog to Warner Brothers, and by 1941, he had given that musical legacy and all its wealth to his family, and finally to Johnny. He became friends with director Charles L. Turner while stationed in Queens, New York, who introduced him to the world of 1930s musicals. That spark was all Johnny needed. He picked up his guitar and started playing the old songs with passion, feeling a deep connection to his grandfather's spirit. Soon people were comparing him to legends like Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire. By the early 1960s, Johnny had put in the work, and it paid off. He had honed his craft. Johnny was ready to make his music career official when he recorded his first single, Daydreams, in 1961. Thanks to his fame as the son of the rifleman, he didn't have to wait long to get fans after signing with Deli Records, whose support helped several of his songs reach the top of the Billboard Top 100 charts. During his career, Johnny put out 3 albums and had 8 Billboard Top 100 hits, but he didn't stop there. He stayed true to his roots and kept making music. Johnny was inspired by his grandfather's musical legacy and formed the Johnny Crawford Dance Orchestra, a group that played big band jazz and swing music from the past. As if Johnny's love of music and movies wasn't enough, he also had a surprising interest in rodeo. He wasn't just a fan, he became an active member of both the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association and the American Junior Rodeo Association, and his years of playing the rifleman gave him plenty of practice. He learned how to do everything with horses and ropes, including steer wrestling, calf roping, bronzing, and bull riding. He also spent time perfecting trick roping, determined to take the art form to a whole new level. The man was a true Renaissance man, always looking for the next thrill and pushing the limits. It was like Johnny made it his mission to keep surprising his fans, and just when they thought they had him figured out, he showed them a whole new side. He showed how patriotic he was by joining the U.S. Army. For Johnny wasn't interested in making headlines or looking good. He really felt that his country needed him, and he wanted to do his part. From December 1965 to December 1967, he served in the Vietnam War, putting his music career and rodeo dreams on hold to do what was right for his country. He once said, "I don't feel like I'm giving up anything, I owe it to my country." That's exactly who Johnny was. He started his service at Fort Bliss, Texas, and later moved to the Army Pictorial Center in New York, where he found a unique way to combine his creative skills with his duty by making training films for soldiers going into combat. He'd often write home with a sense of humor, joking that military haircuts felt like a modern form of scalping, but there was a serious side to his jokes. Johnny was proud of those films because he knew they were helping to prepare others. By the time he was honorably discharged in December 1967, he had earned the rank of sergeant. It was a quiet time in his life, but it spoke volumes. When Johnny came back from the military, he was more grounded and stronger in character and purpose. He turned his attention back to his career, but he also started putting family first. In 1990, once he felt settled in life, Johnny reconnected with his high school sweetheart Charlotte Samko. After 5 years of dating, they decided to make it official and got married. Unlike many Hollywood stories, theirs stood the test of time. Johnny was one of the lucky ones in the business. He never had to go through a public breakup or divorce. His marriage to Charlotte was solid, full of love and quiet strength. Even though he didn't have any biological children, he welcomed Charlotte's daughters Brenda and Jaime as his own, and raised them as his own. Family was very important to Johnny, and he loved working with them whenever he could. He and his brother Bobby had a role together on the Mickey Mouse Club, and later they performed together as the Crawford brothers. Whether he was on stage or at home, Johnny always made sure the people he loved were close by. After being in the Army,
Johnny took a break from acting for a while to recharge, but his first love, acting, pulled him back with memorable roles like The Gambler Returns. The Luck of the Draw, which came out in 1991, gave him a role where he reunited with Chuck Connors, who played his old rifleman co-star. He continued to act until he retired in 1999. He made a short but touching return in 2019 for The Marshal, a tribute to the silent film era and the legendary William S. Hart. It was a quiet nod to the kind of classic storytelling Johnny always admired. But even with such a legacy, there's a question that remains: why did things end on such a sad note, and what was the surprise he got?